1, 2. All right. What's going on, everybody? Testing 1, 2. We're just waiting for YouTube. All right. What's going on, guys? Donnie Rouse here, and I want to ask you something. How have you been approaching your days? Said differently, what is the overall theme that happens in your day, or what are the emotions that you feel? Do you wake up and are you immediately thrown into stress and overwhelm, or do you wake up and do you feel peace, calm, ready to tackle that new day? If the first was you, then I have a little bit of advice and experience that I want to share with you as to how I approach this topic, because in my coffee career, every year around this time, which we're in August right now, or very closely approaching August, I start to approach overwhelm, because the natural cycle of my business is business starts to pick up. And as a result of that picking up, it starts to make bigger demands on my time. And all of a sudden, all of these things must happen every single week in order for me to keep up production to supply my coffees. So what I want to share with you is just the recalibration that I do for myself, so that it may help you not just get to feel better about your day and to bring more positive emotions, but to get more out of your day as well as more out of life. Because isn't it true that life isn't about it isn't about the big moments, it's about the small moments. And isn't it also true is that the most important things aren't going to interrupt you? We often put our attention to the things or the people or the events that are screaming the loudest. But those events are often pulling us away from our own lives, the attention that we need to give to ourselves towards someone else's agenda. So with this episode here, my intention is for you to take back that control, take back the reins of your life, and just start to set some new habits in place. So this way, as you go through your day, you are feeding yourself first, and that you're doing it for a reason. You're being intentful on your day, so that by the time you get to the end of your day, your weeks, your months, your life, you realize you feel fulfilled by it. So I want to talk about a few things. So let me first kind of paint you the picture as to what was going on in my life and why this episode has even come to be. As I had mentioned, this time of year, my business really starts to ramp up. Most of my business is done literally in about 4 months. And if you were looking at it, you say maybe even 3 months. And with that comes this entire ramping up. And all of a sudden, I feel kind of spread thin, where there isn't enough time for me to do all the things as well as to progress the goals and desires that I have. So I start to go into this state of stress and overwhelm. Last week, I went into this state, and I noticed myself going into it because I go to sleep, and all of a sudden, everything, all the to-dos, everything literally starts whirling around. And as a result of that swirling around in my head, I get lousy sleep. I wake up feeling lousy and just drained. And then all of a sudden, it's this vicious cycle that snowballs to the point where, you reach a breaking point and you just say, I'm done. In the past, when I wasn't taking care of this, that end result was always a trip. Sometimes the trips were, I booked those trips just to escape the pain I was feeling in that moment. But what I want to do is allow you to feel all of the emotions, allow you to feel your day, so that you're not waiting for those things that happen at the end, but you can start enjoying the process. So what I did for my own life is, the first thing I did was I needed to get aware, right? I needed to know, what is going on? Why am I feeling stressed? It's so easy to feel stressed and then to just go into something that's going to make you feel better for the moment, like that. It's like the sugar rush. And there's nothing wrong with doing something that's going to pacify and give you those moments where you just start to calm down. For me, one of those things is anime. I love Japanese anime. But there's a point where if I do it too much, I know that it's actually harming me, meaning it's taking me away from the bigger desires and the goals that I have in my day. So you first need to become aware of what exactly is going on. Looking at my past week, I realized that just all these little actions were just starting to build up. And part of the reason they were building up was that I didn't have a system in place, or if there was a system in place, I wasn't holding true to it. And as a result of not holding true to that system or like that routine, all of a sudden now I was just flying by the seat of my pants, and that caused me stress because all of a sudden the next days would come, and then the things that were needed to get done on that day all of a sudden had the pile from the day before that weren't finished. So I got clear. I said, well, what is going on here? Why am I feeling this way? Excuse me. And I realized that one of the things was that I wasn't planning the breaks for myself. I wasn't giving myself the time to just unwind, to just be, and to really, really feel my day. I was listening to one influencer. He was talking about how he approaches his day. Often, when you're like the achiever and you're striving, people say, go after the frog, swallow the frog first, because once you do the hardest task, then everything else becomes easy. Because this isn't true. As you grow through your day, your energy slowly starts to dwindle down. And all of a sudden, you get to the end of the day, and the thing that's taking or requires the huge amount of brain power, all of a sudden you're like, I am not even in the place to begin on this. And then you put it off for the following day. But isn't it also true that sometimes when you prioritize your energy at the beginning of your day, when you do things that actually fill you up, light you up, and maybe give you a sense of purpose and remind you of what it is you're going for in the beginning anyways, isn't it true that sometimes you could spend time doing that while you might not be productive in the traditional sense of what, of your daily tasks, but sometimes just from being in that state, all of a sudden everything just clicks. And everything becomes smooth. And all of a sudden, things that used to take you hours, all of a sudden take you 10 minutes. And you're like, wow, I didn't know I could literally do all that in this small amount of time. And it's because your energy was in a place that allowed you to just be in that flow state. So for me, what I did was, the first thing I did was I just started to block out times for myself, knowing that when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I like to do is I like to be active. I like to get out. I like to work out, run, yoga, whatever it may be. Because when I come back, I already feel like I have a success under my belt. And as a result of that, I already start feeling good. And then I'll go into my journaling. I'll do some personal growth work, some reading. And then I dream a little bit. I think about the things that excite me, what I am going for. What happened last week was that I didn't do any of that. I got stressed out. And I just kind of like passed it off. But I started getting back into the rhythm of that. And all of a sudden, everything started to change. Another thing I also did was, though, I planned, and I'll get into the next one. But another thing I did was I started to plan buckets of time in my day for things that would actually make me feel the day more. Like a sunrise, sunset, having coffee outside. But mainly it was like the sunsets. I love going out to sunset because all of a sudden it brings my entire world, it makes my entire world calm, my inner world. And all of a sudden, I just feel like I'm flowing. I'm able to observe my thoughts. Everything just comes easily. The second thing the second solution I did for myself was I was like, all right, well, summer's almost over, and I didn't really do anything for fun. I just kept working, which sometimes I usually will do that without planning anything. I waited for that big trip, but then I was, you know what? I need to plan more time for enjoyment, not just like the little things in my day, but I need to do some events to get out there and be with friends. Because the relationships are the number one indicator for how happy and joyful you feel in life. If you have bad relationships, you're going to have a bad life. So we must figure out how to work on those relationships. So what I did was I was like, well, what can I do? Mondays are my day off. I recently started giving myself Mondays off, and that was a struggle. And for the last couple of weeks, I was just like, I would do some work, and then I would put it down, and then I'd pick it up again. And then now it's still kind of challenging, but I stop. Mondays are my day. No calls, no emails, nothing. And when I started to say, well, what can I do? Mondays are my day off. What can I plan that I would actually look forward to and enjoy? So I looked at some of my friends' things, activities that we discussed, and I planned a kayaking, I planned some hiking, and I planned a trip to go down to New Jersey to eat authentic Turkish food. Right? So planning in these events and building in my week gives me something to look forward to. In the past, what I would sometimes do is I would be like, I need to do something. In this frantic state, what I would do is that I would just call someone like last minute, hey, what are you doing? You want to go here? And they're like, oh, I can't. And like I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm not doing it. Right. And I would pass it off. And so I want you to plan the things. So this way you give yourself something to look forward to each and every week. To make that even bigger, what I would do is I do a trip. Like, so every year I do a trip, and often I don't book it until about this time when I'm starting to feel like the pressures from just my work life. But I started I knew that I usually hit that threshold in August, but I started thinking a little bit earlier about it. I said, well, where am I going this year? So I'm going to be booking my trip today to go to Laos and Sri Lanka. And in doing that, all of a sudden, it's like, again, a switch flips because now I have something to look forward to. I know that, like, oh my God, I'm going to be going on this amazing trip, have an amazing experience, and it gives meaning to everything else, like the hard work that I am putting in. So let me ask you a question. What is something that you can do? You may not have, you may not have a lot of vacation time to take. Maybe it's a day, right? Maybe it's a day that you get to go to some small town nearby and just kind of just wander the town, right? It doesn't have to be anything big, but at least give yourself something to look forward to. And I was saying with my friends and just planning things to look forward to in your day, like the small, like doing things that just feed your soul. That is the basis